Let's begin with a simple truth. You wouldn't make it. Not even till lunch. If you woke up tomorrow in 1325, say somewhere in charming rural England or the heart of the Holy Roman Empire, you wouldn't be embarking on a noble quest. You'd be wet, cold, underfed, possibly on fire, and definitely covered in fleas. So go ahead, dim the lights, get comfy in your impossibly soft bed, and snuggle beneath your clean, indoor plumbing-enabled modern life. Because tonight I'm going to walk you through why you'd absolutely crumble in one single medieval day. And yes, we're going hour by hour. Let the suffering begin. The first thing you feel isn't peace, it's itching. A crawling, scratching, soul-rattling itch coming from every inch of your body. You're not just uncomfortable, you're infested. Congratulations. You've been officially welcomed to the Middle Ages by your new roommates, lice, fleas, and the suspicious rash that no one talks about, but everyone seems to have. You blink your eyes open, though calling them eyes might be generous at this point. They're crusted shut with something that definitely isn't sleep, and possibly is a medieval eye infection. Because that's a thing now. The air is so cold your breath puffs out like smoke. Your nostrils ache. You'd sniffle if you weren't too scared your nose might just snap off from frostbite. You try to roll over, but the straw mattress beneath you protests loudly. It crunches. That's right, crunches. Because this isn't a mattress. It's a flat burlap sack stuffed with old hay, moldy feathers, twigs, and a generous helping of unidentified creatures. It smells like a barn floor. Because 3 months ago, it was. In fact, if you sniff hard enough, and I wouldn't recommend it, you can still smell hints of goat, spilled ale, and whatever your Uncle Olaf did to that thing last week. There's no blanket, just a moth-eaten wool rectangle that used to be beige, but now looks like a medieval art project gone wrong. It's heavy, not because it's warm, but because it has absorbed the centuries. Grime, sweat, spilled porridge, and the tears of every peasant who slept under it before you. It's less a blanket and more a weighted trauma cloak. As you sit up, very slowly because your back is one medieval sneeze away from snapping in half, you become acutely aware that your body hurts. All of it. Your joints creak like a haunted church door. Your spine feels like it was assembled by a blind monk using recycled firewood. And your hips? Well, let's just say medieval peasants don't have chiropractors. You're 24 years old and already feel 86. You stretch, hoping to get the blood flowing. It doesn't help. Instead, it reminds you that your knees now sound like 2 sacks of gravel being rubbed together by someone holding a grudge. And your shoulders? One of them dislocated itself 2 summers ago during a wheat threshing incident and was never quite convinced to rejoin the team. You look around. Not that you can see much. Your house is a single-room wooden hut, held together by dirt, splinters, and divine intervention. There are no windows, just cracks in the walls where light sneaks in and cold wind pours through like it pays rent. The roof? Thatched straw, leaky, sagging, and home to a family of birds you gave up trying to evict 2 winters ago. They chirp at you like landlords. The floor? It's dirt, not rustic aesthetic dirt. Actual wet, cold, mud-caked earth. And if you're wondering whether that's a pile of chicken droppings or just your toddler's nighttime accident, don't worry. You'll find out the hard way in about 30 seconds when you step on it barefoot. Yes, barefoot, because socks haven't been invented, and your shoes You have one. Singular. You lost the other last month in a pig-related incident no one talks about anymore. You share this hut with your entire family. That includes your parents, your siblings, your aunt who won't leave, 3 of her children, and the family goat, who has more attitude than anyone and sleeps in the warmest corner of the room. The goat is winning. You are not. There is no privacy, no bedroom, no curtain to pull, no morning routine unless you count the moment where you mentally brace yourself for more misery. And there's no me time, because in the Middle Ages your life is community-based whether you like it or not. If you wake up cranky, too bad. Someone's already milking the goat 4 feet away and your uncle is sneezing directly onto the family bread. Meanwhile, your neighbors outside are already yelling at their chickens and starting fires for breakfast sludge. Soundproofing doesn't exist. You can hear every burp, grunt, snore, and marriage argument happening within a 3-hut radius. And someone is definitely coughing. That wet, ominous, I might be the next Black Death kind of coughing. You ignore it because, well, what's the alternative? You reach for your clothes, which are piled next to your bed in a heap that could be classified as hazardous waste. They're damp. Why? Doesn't matter. Everything in the hut is damp. Probably condensation. Maybe goat pee. You don't question things anymore. As you finally stagger to your feet, already out of breath, by the way, you take your first step of the day. Immediately land in something wet. Congratulations! Your foot is now part of the local water table. And that, dear listener, is the start of your medieval morning. And it only goes downhill from here. Now that you've awakened itchy, sore, cold, and emotionally shattered, it's time for the next medieval delight, breakfast. Except, plot twist, it's not really a thing. Not in the way you're thinking. There's no pantry, no fridge, no morning smoothie packed with chia seeds and optimism, and absolutely no barista calling your name while handing you a cinnamon oat milk latte with a heart in the foam. The closest thing you're getting to a hot beverage is if the goat sneezes into your barley mash. What you get is pottage again. Let's talk about pottage. It's not a dish, it's a life sentence. Pottage is the great medieval equalizer, because whether you're a peasant, a monk, or a very unlucky soldier, this gray, gloopy sludge is what you're eating every single day. Imagine a pot. Now imagine that pot never being emptied or cleaned. It just sits over a fire, eternally bubbling, while people toss in whatever scraps they have on hand. That's pottage. Some days it's mostly onions. Some days it's mostly sadness. Usually it's barley, turnips, a rotting carrot if you're lucky, and maybe, just maybe, a lentil that wandered in by accident. If you're feeling fancy, someone might throw in a boiled egg, not a whole one, just the shell for calcium. The taste? Somewhere between wet wool sock and hot compost stew. The texture? Think glue, but with chunks. The smell? Barnyard meets fever dream. And here's the fun part. This same pot has been in use since your great-grandmother's time. New ingredients are added on top of the old ones, creating what can only be described as a culinary time capsule of collective resignation. It's not seasoned. It's not salted. Salt costs more than your entire monthly income. Spices? Forget it. A pinch of black pepper costs more than your hut. Cinnamon might as well be a royal heirloom. And don't even whisper the word sugar unless you want to be accused of witchcraft. Next to the pottage is a hunk of bread, and I use bread loosely. It's hard, like weaponizable hard. If someone threw it at you, you'd lose a tooth. It's made of rye or barley flour, sometimes bulked out with sawdust, powdered bark, or acorns, because wheat is what rich people dream about while nibbling their salted goose thighs. You don't slice this bread. You negotiate with it. You dunk it into the pottage in hopes it'll soften enough not to shatter your molars. It doesn't. Now let's talk about your drink. Water? Number absolutely not. The stream outside, it's basically a disease cocktail. Somewhere upstream, someone is dumping waste directly into it. Possibly human, definitely animal, and occasionally surprising. You'd get cholera before you finished your first sip. So instead, you drink small ale, a weak, watery, low-alcohol beer that's flat, sour, and probably brewed by a monk who lost all sense of taste in the year 1304. It's not delicious. It's not refreshing. But it's boiled, which makes it safer than the river of sadness trickling through the village. And yes, even children drink beer in the Middle Ages. There is no juice, no milk, unless you've got a lactating animal and enough status not to have that milk confiscated by your lord for tax reasons. So it's ale for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Cheers. Protein. Dream on. You're not getting meat unless it's Sunday, a saint's feast day, or you found a dead bird on the road and decided to roll the dice. The average medieval peasant eats meat maybe 4 times a year, and 2 of those were accidents. And fruit? Oh, fruit exists. In theory. You might get an apple in the fall if the local noble didn't take them all first. But even then, fruit goes bad fast. And since refrigerators won't be invented for another 600 years, that apple might already be half fermented into what passes for wine. And yes, people still eat it. Mold? Just cut around it. Worms. Extra protein. Texture is a privilege. All in all, breakfast in medieval times isn't nourishing. It's a test of your will to live. You don't eat because it's enjoyable. You eat because collapsing in the field later would be frowned upon. Breakfast doesn't comfort you. It doesn't energize you. It doesn't bring the family together for cheerful bonding over bacon and eggs. Breakfast just happens to you, like the plague, like taxes, like rain inside your house. You eat your pottage. You gnaw on your bread. You gulp your sad little ale. And then you carry on. Because if you don't finish what's in the pot, the dog will. And you really don't want to fight the dog. He hasn't been bathed since the Crusades. So that's breakfast. Hope you enjoyed it. There's more misery where that came from. By now, you've eaten your scoop of pottage paste, gnawed on your stone-baked bread brick, and chased it down with a mug of flat sadness. Your stomach, already skeptical of this lifestyle, is beginning to stir, and nature, ever punctual, begins to call. Except nature doesn't call. It yells, it screams, and it absolutely does not provide a restroom. There is no bathroom. There is no outhouse. There is certainly no porcelain throne waiting for you in a little candlelit room with air freshener and a matching towel set. Of course not. This is medieval Europe. When you feel the urge, your options are behind the hut, into a bucket, or, if you're urban and unlucky, straight out the window into the street below. Let's break this down. If you're a peasant, your toilet is likely a wooden bucket in a corner of the yard, or sometimes in the house, if it's raining and you're not feeling like a walk. This bucket has no lid, no lining, and no shame. It already contains a charming collection of everything your family has produced. for the last day or two, and by now it smells like a curse. There is no toilet paper, not even a concept of it. Your medieval wiping tools include moss, seasonal and damp, straw, scratchy but better than nothing, leaves, often poisonous, but go ahead and gamble, a piece of cloth that has been communal for a little too long, or, in emergencies, your hand. Yes, that hand. And after that, you might rinse it in a basin of cold gray water, if you're lucky, or just rub it on the wall and move on with your day. Washing hands is for future centuries. If you're a woman, the situation is even bleaker. Privacy doesn't exist. Your options are limited. Your bathroom break may involve ducking behind a crumbling fence while your cousin aggressively herds chickens 2 feet away and pretends not to notice. And if you're really unlucky, say living in a town or small city, you use the public method, which is this. You do your business in a chamber pot or bowl, walk over to the window and toss it out with a cheerful shout of "Gardez-loo," which is medieval French for heads up below. And yes, everyone knows what that means. You say it not to be polite, but to legally absolve yourself of guilt when your neighbor's toddler walks through it 30 seconds later. Now imagine the street. Narrow, cobbled, no sewers, no drainage, just a filthy river of human waste, animal dung, spoiled food, and mysterious bubbling liquids oozing past your doorstep. And people walk through it in sandals or barefoot, then go home and cook dinner with those same hands. It's not unhygienic, it's medieval. Now, if you're lucky enough to live in a town with a public latrine, a sort of early community toilet, you might think, civilization. Wrong. A public latrine is a wooden bench with multiple holes carved into it, side by side. No stalls, no partitions, just a row of strangers, pants down, elbows touching, doing their business shoulder to shoulder like it's a team sport. Ventilation? None. Odor? Historic. Privacy? Zero. If someone makes eye contact, it's over. You move villages. And let's not forget that these toilets often drained directly into the moat, river, or a trench outside the walls. So not only is your personal business being shared with everyone around you, it's also part of the local water supply now. Which brings us to castles. You'd think things get better if you're noble. They don't. Enter the garderobe, a fancy name for a glorified hole in the wall. You sit on a stone seat built into the castle, and your waist drops down a vertical shaft into the moat or courtyard below. That's right. Your toilet is also your enemy's entry point. Because yes, invaders have been known to crawl in through the waste chute. Welcome to medieval tactical warfare. Now imagine the joy of squatting over an ice-cold hole, your butt freezing to the stone, the wind whistling through the shaft, while you listen for rats and hope no one's watching from the courtyard below. That's your royal privilege. And remember, waste management doesn't exist. Waste accumulates. It seeps into the ground. It attracts rats, bugs, disease, and eventually consequences. It's no surprise the Middle Ages were basically a biological battleground. Typhoid, dysentery, cholera, the Black Death, all of them thriving in an environment where human waste is a daily hazard and hygiene is a myth no one's invented yet. And don't think brushing your teeth will help. You don't have a toothbrush or toothpaste. You might chew on a stick. You might rinse your mouth with vinegar and spit. But overall, the state of your mouth is about to become a full-blown horror show, and we'll get to that. For now, you've gone to the bathroom by squatting in mud, wiping with moss, dumping it into a trench, and stepping in something wet that may or may not be related. And it's only 10 a.m. So, you've survived the pottage. You've done your business into a questionable hole. Your body is sore, your feet are cold, and you already kind of hate everyone around you but don't get comfortable. Because the medieval world has one universal rule. You don't stop working, ever. Rest is not a concept. Lunch breaks are not a thing. And weekends are only a myth whispered by time travelers. You are now entering the part of your day where you work yourself into the grave for someone else's benefit. Let's set the scene. You are a peasant, which means you do not own land. You work the land, but it belongs to the local lord, who lives in a big cold stone box on a hill, wears too much fur, and has never once spelled your name correctly. He might not even know it. Your job, to keep his fields plowed, his crops growing, and his taxes paid. You wake with the sun. You stop when it dies, unless it's cloudy, in which case, good luck guessing when you're allowed to stop. You step outside your wooden hovel, if you can call it stepping and not limping, and begin the slow march to the fields. Your tools? A wooden hoe that's been handed down for 3 generations and has all the structural integrity of a breadstick. Maybe a sickle so rusted it qualifies as a tetanus sculpture. And your hands, which are your primary tools of survival. They are already calloused, cracked, and probably bleeding. You spend your day doing everything. Plowing the soil with a hand-drawn cart, if you're rich enough to own an ox, which you aren't. Pulling weeds while hunched over in the sun like a boiled shrimp. Sowing seeds while your knees sink into the mud. Hauling buckets of water from the well, which is 400 years old and somehow still uphill in both directions. Shoveling manure, lifting stones, digging trenches, carrying firewood, fending off rats, arguing with your cousin about who broke the plow last time, praying it doesn't rain, freeze, hail, or catch fire. And through it all, your back is beginning to resemble the letter S. There are no gloves, no boots, no water bottles. You sweat through the one tunic you own, which is already stiff from weeks of labor, and let's be honest, goat drool. You try not to sit, because sitting means standing back up, and your knees just aren't that emotionally available anymore. Now, if you're a woman, congratulations. You don't just work in the fields, you also cook, clean, nurse your baby, swaddle another baby, scrub clothes in freezing water, tend to sick animals, feed 6 people from the same half onion and stale oatcake, dodge accusations of witchcraft, and try not to weep openly when your husband brings home a blessed relic that's actually just a shiny rock he found in the pig pen. Your children are not playing. They are working by age 5, helping in the field, gathering kindling, chasing chickens. The idea of childhood is reserved for saints and nobility. And if by some bizarre twist of fate you're not a farmer, maybe you're a blacksmith, a tanner, a cooper, or a candlemaker, your life still sucks. You work in dark, windowless sheds filled with fire, smoke, lye, molten metal, animal guts, and things that smell like regret. You have no protective gear. You breathe in everything. You cough it out in your 30s, assuming you live that long. And here's the kicker. No matter what job you do, how hard you work, or how much you bleed, you are paid in subsistence. You don't earn money. You earn the right not to die today. Food, shelter, and maybe, a piece of coarse linen cloth to patch your elbow. That's the big bonus. There is no job security. If you get sick, break a bone, or just collapse from exhaustion, you don't call in. You just disappear, and someone else takes your place. You are not indispensable. You are not even memorable. You are a line in a tax record and a body in a ditch when the work gets too hard. But don't worry, there's always Sunday. That's your day off. Except it's not. You still tend animals, cook meals, fetch water, and clean the house. You just do it while wearing slightly cleaner rags and listening to a priest yell at you for thinking too many impure thoughts about your neighbor's ankles. Also, if your Lord calls for you to dig a moat, build a wall, or march to some battlefield you don't understand, tough. You go. Because you don't have a job. You don't have a career. You have feudalism, a soul-crushing system designed to wring every drop of effort from your body until it stops functioning. And the moment it does, you're replaced. No farewell cake, no pension, just a shallow grave and someone else's teenage nephew taking over your shovel. So when you next complain about your inbox or being stuck in traffic or not liking Karen from accounting, just remember, at least you're not knee-deep in pig manure, pulling weeds for 16 hours, trying not to faint while the Lord Steward threatens to fine you for under-harvesting turnips. This is your life. This is your livelihood. And this is why you would absolutely not survive a day in medieval times. You've survived the morning, barely. You've worked yourself halfway into the ground. You're sunburned, underfed, and your fingers are one splinter away from giving up entirely. So naturally, it's time to get sick. Because in the Middle Ages, getting sick isn't a possibility. It's a guarantee. Everyone is sick, all the time, in some way or another. If it's not the plague, it's the pox. If it's not the pox, it's rotting teeth, weeping sores, or some vaguely described illness called the sweating sickness, which honestly just sounds like Monday. Let's say today you got a simple cut on your hand while hauling firewood. A tiny splinter. No big deal, right? Wrong. That splinter is about to become the main character in your life. Why? Because there are no disinfectants, no antiseptic, no Band-Aids, no wash it and keep it clean protocol. Your hands are covered in animal waste, breadcrumbs, soot, fleas, and whatever bacteria is currently trending in your village. And you just shoved all of it into an open wound. By nightfall, your finger will be swollen. By tomorrow, it's black. By next week, gone. If the infection doesn't kill you, the fever will. And if the fever doesn't, the treatment might. Let's talk about medieval medicine. It's not medicine, it's drama. Your options include being bled, which is when someone cuts open a vein and lets your bad humors drain out into a bowl. Being leeched, that is, attaching live worms to your body to suck out whatever the doctor doesn't like. Being purged, which is a polite way of saying violently made to throw up, pass out, and question everything. Being smoked, burned, sweated, or prayed over, sometimes all at once. And who performs these treatments? A doctor? Of course not. There are no real doctors. There are barber surgeons. That's right. The man who trims your beard is also the man who might amputate your leg. He sharpens his razors on a piece of leather and keeps his saw under the same table where he guts pigs. There are apothecaries who mix potions made from mercury, dried frogs, crushed beetles, and probably your hope. There are monks who will diagnose you with excess black bile, mutter some Latin, and give you a spoonful of mystery syrup boiled from herbs and guilt. And there are midwives, folk healers, and your great-aunt Marjorie, who swears by putting moldy bread on wounds and tying garlic to your armpits to ward off the evil air. Which, for the record, was a real theory. They thought disease came from bad smells, not germs, not bacteria, just stinky vibes. So you, lying in your straw bed with a raging fever and a festering arm, are surrounded by people waving incense and muttering about your liver's emotional imbalance. They think your illness is caused by the stars, or your sins, or an angry neighbor who looked at you weird during Mass. You might be prescribed a hot bath in urine, a diet of boiled lettuce, or a week of silence and reflection followed by a gentle exorcism. If none of that works, they cut something off. Amputation was very in, and they'll do it with zero anesthesia, of course. Maybe they'll give you a rag soaked in vinegar to bite down on, if they're feeling generous. Oh, and let's not forget childbirth. If you're a woman, childbirth is not a moment of joy. It is a death lottery. There are no sterile rooms, no pain relief, no prenatal vitamins. You lie on a mat while the midwife, who just delivered a goat yesterday, tells you to breathe while hoping your uterus doesn't fall out and your baby doesn't arrive upside down. If there's a complication, there's nothing anyone can do. You die. The baby dies. Everyone dies. Your name becomes a cautionary tale, and your husband remarries before the bread is cold. And speaking of death, let's talk about the Black Death, the absolute VIP of medieval illnesses. It arrives without warning, kills in days, and is everywhere at once. You wake up with a fever, then a lump in your armpit the size of a pigeon egg. By afternoon, you're vomiting black blood and questioning your life choices. By the next morning, you're a corpse, wrapped in a sheet, if you're lucky, and tossed into a pit with 80 other people who also made the mistake of breathing in 1348. The cause? People think it's punishment from God. Others blame the Jews, the wind, the alignment of Saturn, or that strange-looking toad outside your door. No one blames the actual fleas jumping off actual rats, because no one knows what germs are. Also, rats are everywhere. They live in your thatched roof, they sleep by your fire, and they sometimes cuddle with your children. So yes, it's afternoon, and whether it's a splinter, a sneeze, a weird rash, or just existing within medieval society, you've caught something. And you won't be getting better. You'll just get historical. The sun is finally starting to dip behind the hills, which would be a beautiful moment if your eyeballs weren't stinging from smoke, your back wasn't twisted like a cursed pretzel, and your stomach wasn't performing a sad little dance called "You Didn't Feed Me Today." It's evening, and your reward for surviving this long is the one thing that might lift your spirits. Dinner. Except, no, put that hope away. Dinner is not a joyful event. It's not cozy. It's not comforting. It's not a reward. It's another punishment with a spoon. Let's begin with ambiance. You're back in your hovel. The fire is sputtering. Not crackling, sputtering, because you don't have enough wood. Gathering firewood is technically illegal in many places, unless you have permission from your lord. If you pick up the wrong stick in the wrong forest, that's theft, punishable by execution. So you burn what you can: damp twigs, splinters, hay, and regret. Your dinner is cooking over this sad flame in the same pot you used for breakfast, which is the same pot your great-grandmother used, which is the same pot your dog occasionally drinks from. Guess what's inside? Pottage. Again. You knew it. It's always pottage, because it never ends. It's like a cursed medieval soup that regenerates itself. No one remembers when the pot was last emptied. New ingredients are just layered over the old ones, like some kind of slow, sad lasagna made of swamp water and sorrow. Today's ingredients: a few more boiled turnip peels, 3 peas, something that might be cabbage or might be moss, and was that a fingernail? You tell yourself it's protein. The smell, somewhere between boiled sock, wet hay, and that weird odor old books get after surviving a flood. The flavor? Muddy, sour, and vaguely barn-adjacent. Texture? Think porridge that gave up halfway. You sit down, or more accurately, collapse, on a stool made from a tree stump and a prayer. You lift your wooden spoon, and you eat, quietly, grimly, because there's no talking at dinner. There's just chewing, and sometimes crying. The bread you have, if you're lucky, is still rock hard. It's not stale. It's been born this way. Bread in the Middle Ages is not the fluffy, Instagram-worthy artisan loaf you're imagining. It's round, flat, gray, and so dense it could deflect arrows. In lean times, it's bulked out with sawdust. Yes, sawdust. Wood shavings, to stretch the flour, because wheat is expensive, and you, dear peasant, are not worth wheat. If it's rye season, good luck. There's a fungus called ergot that grows on rye grain. It causes seizures, hallucinations, gangrene, and death. So sometimes, medieval dinner is basically eat your soup, see the devil, lose a limb, perish. Bon appétit. Now, what about meat? Ha 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 ha. Of course not. You do not get meat. You might smell meat drifting downwind from the Lord's manor, but you will not eat it. You might eat meat twice a year, on religious feast days, if your Lord is feeling generous, and if no one else gets to it first. Your protein sources are bugs, accidentally mostly, beans, rare, salted fish, if you live near water and know a guy, or that squirrel your cousin hit with a rake, which is now being roasted over a fire with a terrifying level of optimism. Dairy? Maybe. But milk spoils fast. Cheese is too valuable to eat freely. Butter is a luxury item. So you scrape what you can from a wooden bowl and hope it's still food. Vegetables? Sure, if it's the right season and the rats didn't get to the garden first. Mostly you eat turnips, boiled, mashed, burnt, cold, forever. Fruit? If you happen to stumble across an apple, enjoy it, but it's already bruised, half-eaten by worms, and probably fermenting. Welcome to accidental medieval cider. You drink it anyway. Spices. Stop it. Even salt is expensive. The only reason you might taste salt is if someone drops a tear into your soup. Black pepper is literally worth more than gold. Nutmeg could buy a village. And cinnamon might as well be a fairy tale. So your food tastes like sadness and wet fabric, with a hint of don't ask. Now let's talk about danger. Yes, dinner is dangerous. Food poisoning is common because there is no refrigeration, no expiration dates, no sniff test, because everything already smells bad. Your meat, if you ever get any, has been hanging in a smoky, bug-infested shack for days. It's got green spots. You eat around them. Your bread might have mold. You eat it anyway. Your stew might have something dead floating in it. You stir it deeper and keep going. Because here's the truth. You can't afford not to eat, even if it's gross, even if it's spoiled, even if it might kill you. And then there's the law. In many parts of medieval Europe, wild animals, like rabbits, deer, and boars, belong to the Lord, not you. If you are caught poaching, even for your starving family, you can be fined, imprisoned, or executed. That's right. You could literally be hanged for hunting a rabbit. Your dinner is a crime. Your squirrel stew is an act of rebellion. So you sit, spoon in hand, chewing your nearly edible paste in silence. The fire sputters. Your child coughs in the corner. The dog licks the pot. And this is dinner. It doesn't warm you. It doesn't fill you. It doesn't bring you joy. It just keeps you going. For another day of cold, lice, back pain, and deeply suspicious bread. Bon appétit médiéval. You've made it through another day. And what a day it was. You woke up on a straw mattress that doubled as a petri dish. You ate turnip gruel with a side of fungal hallucinations. You bled for your lord in a barley field. You wiped with moss. And dinner might have contained squirrel. So now, naturally, you'd like to collapse into bed, right? Wrong. You don't go to bed. You crawl back into the drafty, itchy purgatory you started in. And what awaits you? Not peace, not comfort, just another long, freezing night in your communal wooden misery box. Let's start with the air. It is cold, not chilly, not crisp, Arctic. Your breath fogs the air as you huddle under the same wool blanket that's been used by 3 generations and washed approximately never. You pull it up over your shoulders, except it doesn't really pull, because it's so stiff. With grime, it folds like cardboard. It now weighs more than your toddler, and smells like everything your family has been through, spiritually and biologically. You're still wearing your work clothes because, of course you are. You don't have pajamas. You don't even have spare clothes. You have the tunic and the slightly worse tunic for special occasions. Bathing before bed? That's adorable. You haven't bathed in weeks, maybe months, because in the Middle Ages people thought bathing was dangerous. They believed it opened the pores, which let disease in. So instead of washing, you just exist in layers of sweat, soot, animal dander, and spiritual defeat. Your body itches, your scalp throbs, your skin is crawling, because so is everything on it. You share this bed, if it can be called that, with at least one other person, possibly more. Your spouse, your children, your weird cousin, and the goat. Always the goat. There is no mattress, just the same lumpy hay-stuffed sack from this morning, now flattened from decades of sleeping, milking, arguing, giving birth, and dying in it. The straw inside is full of bugs. The bugs have names. They're part of the family now. And forget about pillows. Your head rests on a bundled shirt, or a bag of dried peas, or a block of wood, if you're lucky. Your neck is cramping, your shoulders dislocated. You're still sore from yesterday's peasant Olympics, which included haul water up a hill, dig like your life depends on it, and please don't collapse in the rye. Outside, the wind whistles through the thatched roof like a medieval ghost, which, by the way, everyone believes in. Because of course they do. This is an age where thunder is God yelling, illness is demons, and dreams are seen as direct prophecies from the afterlife. So as you lie there, exhausted, itchy, bruised, and one cough away from total organ failure, you're also terrified of thieves, of wolves, of spirits, of your neighbor who coughed 3 times during dinner and now might be patient 0 for the next local apocalypse. Let's talk about lighting. There is none. Your hut is lit by a candle stub jammed into a turnip, or maybe a smoldering oil lamp you made from pig fat and an old sock. It flickers once, dies. Now it's just you, the dark, and the scurrying sounds of rats in the thatch above your head. No nightlight, no cozy podcast, no fan whirring gently to lull you into sleep, just scratching and squeaking, and maybe the priest yelling somewhere in the distance about eternal damnation for impure thoughts. You try to fall asleep. You shift to your side. The hay pokes your hip. You roll to your back. A flea bites your ankle. Someone next to you shifts, grunts, and breathes directly onto your face. You can taste the garlic from their pottage. The goat lets out a demonic sigh. You sigh back. Time passes, the cold gets colder, the noises get noisier, and sleep drips in like a reluctant, freezing fog, barely settling over you, never truly taking hold. Even dreaming doesn't offer much comfort, because your dreams are usually about work, death, fire, or taxes. You dream of your bread going moldy. You dream of forgetting your tithes. You dream of your Lord Steward knocking on the door at dawn, demanding another bushel of barley you don't have. When you finally do drift off, it's not a deep, restorative sleep. It's a shallow, twitchy sort of unconsciousness that hovers just above awareness. Because your body hurts, your soul hurts, and you know in a few short hours the sun will rise, and you will do this over again. Let's just be honest with each other. You've made it through one imaginary day in medieval Europe, and barely. And sure, it was all pretend. You're still in bed. You're still warm. Your mattress contains neither hay nor rodents. You're clutching your pillow like a modern luxury. Your body is clean. Your teeth are intact. Your bathroom is a room. But if this day were real, you would not have made it past breakfast. Maybe not even to breakfast. You wouldn't survive, not because you're weak, not because you're spoiled, but because no one should have survived this. The real miracle is that anyone did. Let's review. You woke up freezing, itchy, and sore on a lumpy sack full of hay and bugs. You defecated into a bucket. You wiped with a stick. You ate gray stew that's been simmering since the Magna Carta. You worked until your spine wept. You stepped on something soft that shouldn't have been soft. You were probably infected. You were definitely bitten. You possibly hallucinated from fungus-infused rye bread. You ended your day chewing squirrel by candlelight, sharing a lice-infested blanket with a goat named Margaret and a toddler who kicks in his sleep. And that's just one day. Your body wouldn't last a week. Your immune system wouldn't last a weekend. Your soul would have ghosted you by Tuesday. Your skin, raw and flaking. Your joints, cracking like firewood. Your digestive system, screaming. Your personal hygiene, let's not even. You'd be a walking ecosystem, a mobile zoo of skin problems and tooth decay, and you'd smell like a crime scene. You wouldn't survive because there's nothing to survive for. Joy is rare, hope is rationed, laughter is suspicious. And ambition? Oh no, don't dream too big. You were born a peasant, and you'll die one, likely before your 35th birthday, in a ditch, during a fever dream. You don't own anything. You don't have privacy. You don't have control. You have feudalism, and it's not cute. Your village is damp. Your lord is angry. Your clothes itch. Your food lies. Your roof leaks. Your job is eternal. Your knees have already filed for separation. And every day is more or less the same. Wake up, ache, work, suffer, eat a questionable root, wipe with moss, sleep next to a person who might be coughing plague. Repeat. You wouldn't survive because the medieval world wasn't built for survival. It was built for endurance, for quiet, grim determination, for making it one more day through rain, rot, rules, and religious terror. And honestly, most people didn't survive. The average life expectancy hovered around 30 years, but only because so many people died as children. If you made it to age 12, you were considered seasoned. If you made it to 40, you were an ancient wizard. There were no golden years, no retirement, no aging gracefully. You just aged visibly, quickly, in public, with symptoms. The truth is, most modern people would be crying by breakfast and dead by dusk. You wouldn't survive not because you're soft, but because the past was deliberately awful. It was cruel. It was filthy. It was unfair. And it never stopped being any of those things. But hey, you don't live there. You live here, where your bread is soft, your toilet has buttons, your worst complaint is about your Wi-Fi, and you're falling asleep under clean sheets, in a bed that has never, not once, been shared with livestock. So tonight, as you close your eyes and drift off, give a quiet, whispered thank you to the modern world, to heating, to antibiotics, to soap, to shoes, to chairs, to plumbing, to dental floss, and most of all, to the absolute miracle that you were not born in 1325. Good night. Sleep tight. Don't let the plague rats bite. So, if you've made it this far without contracting scurvy, hallucinating from moldy bread, or falling into a medieval toilet, congratulations. You are now certified in not surviving the Middle Ages, but hopefully you're feeling a little more grateful for your soft pillow, your flushable porcelain miracle, and the blessed absence of turnip-based everything. If tonight's dose of boring history, brutally told, helped you relax, laugh, or fall asleep with a smirk, be sure to tap that like button. It tells the algorithm that sleep-deprived history nerds exist, and that we need more pottage-powered storytelling in our lives. Drop a comment below and let me know, what was the worst part of your medieval day? Or better yet, what era should we not survive next? And don't forget to subscribe for more sarcastic bedtime sagas, from plague pits to powdered wigs, every week here on Anastasia's Whisper. Until next time, sleep soft, stay grateful, and remember, if you think today was hard, at least you didn't have to wipe with straw. Good night.